What is going on, Boo Bop? Welcome to episode 9 of the Table Podcast. I'm so excited for this one because last week we got to get into self-love, loving yourself back to light, that dark part of you, the darkness that lives within you, because it lives within all of us. Being able to love that part of you back to light was so incredibly important. Great conversation. But now we got to talk about connecting confidently, right? Connecting with people confidently, connecting to ourselves confidently, right? We got to talk about what makes it hard for us to love ourselves in the first place, right? Like, I don't think any one of us was born thinking to ourselves, I can't wait to not love myself. I can't wait to see all of the flaws and all of the problems with myself. I can't wait to not believe in myself. As a matter of fact, I don't know about you, but as a kid, I remember me and a lot of the kids around me always had these big ideas of who we were going to be and how we were going to show up. And, we had to be told, right, by the adults in the world what was okay and not okay. But for the most part, we did have dreams. We did want more until we started being conditioned into what it is that we should believe or how it is that we should act, right? So none of us really were born to dislike ourselves. And yet, as adults, it's actually really, really tough for us to like and love the parts of ourselves that society deems is a little bit of a problem. And if you did not watch last week's episode, stop this one right quick, okay? Head on back. Make sure you watch it because it all is cohesive. It all goes together. If you haven't watched any episode from the podcast, what is you doing? What's going on? Oh, did you just found me? No problem. Okay, that's fine. If you just found me, I'm not mad at that. If you've been here, why are you skipping, right? But just found me, that's perfectly fine. There's a whole playlist. You can literally go back to episode 1 and watch everything back because I really do think that everything we talk about is so incredibly important, right? To being your authentic self and connecting with genuine connections. But today, we're not just going to talk about connecting. We got to talk about connecting confidently. And the one thing that I know that makes it so incredibly hard for us to love ourselves and to see ourselves and to be ourselves is judgments of others, right? We all crave validation, right? I read in a book, don't ask me what book, don't ask me by what author. I love when people can just like recite the book, they're just like, I read this book, boo, boo, bop, bop, and this is what it said. I'd be like, wow, that memory is beautiful. But I did read a quick excerpt in a book that had said that people naturally want to work together, right? We just naturally care about what each other thinks. We want to, I think it said like verbatim, we want to cooperate. That is just naturally in us. So no one really wants to go against what everybody else is doing. Like if we see that the majority is doing something happens in our brains that says, this is safe, this is okay, this is what's going to get me liked, this is what's going to get me in the crew, this is what's going to keep me within, my peoples, the world, right? So keep doing this thing, right? And so no matter what the thing is, even if we all can't stand it, we are less likely to go against it than to actually fight it and be authentic and really understand where we're coming from with it. Instead, what we do is we oblige. We say, okay. Did I say oblige? Is that what I meant to say? We obey. We say okay to whatever it is that we need to do. We show up that way and then we complain. And we end up living in this like lack energy because of the simple fact that we can't be or express ourselves, at least we think we can't, the way we want to. Then we have a system, right? Society system that has a system in place that says, if you show up differently, if you don't follow the rules, if you show up as this unique person, you will reap the consequences. And the consequences of that isn't always this like happy-go-lucky thing. Not everybody wants those consequences. Sometimes the consequences is as dire as jail time. Sometimes the consequences is as dire as simply being judged harshly. And so when there are so many stipulations against us showing up ourselves, it makes it really hard for us to love ourselves. Instead, all of the beating ourselves up doesn't even have anything to do with how we actually feel. It's not us trying to actually heal parts of us that matter, parts of us that we need to grow. It's us just trying to mold ourselves to be something for everybody, which is an impossible task. Literally impossible. Someone could come to you and tell you to be an exact kind of person, and you could show up exactly like that kind of person and still never make them happy. Because happiness, that's an inside job. So what makes it difficult for us to actually love ourselves, to show up in the world authentically, and to do it confidently? It is judgment. And since we crave validation so much, we are making sure that whatever judgments come our way, they're going to be positive judgments. That's why when people tell us that we're good at something, or they give us positive feedback, there's that extra dopamine, that extra joy, that extra happiness, because we just got the validation that we really wanted, so we feel like we're safe to keep going. But the moment someone begins to doubt you or talk negatively to you, you start to take that in. And of course, I know there's the outliers that are like, not me, I just do me anyway. Boop, bop, bap, bap, bap. Cool. But there are a lot of things that we experienced as kids, growing up, and today that tell us that who we are is too different, it's too against the norm, and nobody would actually relate. So for example, one of the things I talked about in last week's episode is what I've been through, right? And how it was difficult to love myself. It was difficult to get myself out of, such messed up times, right? Especially being the villain in the story, right? I was the villain in a lot of people's stories, not because I wanted to be, but because of my choices, because of my trauma, and because of just how I showed up, right? And so I became the villain in my own story. And so I talk about that there, so feel free to go look. But one of the things that I realized with me being that kind of person and like looking for validation or whatever the case is, I would look around for validation from people and literally never get it. Never. No matter what I did. It didn't matter how I showed up. People not only had expectations of how I showed up, they also had expectations of the way I showed up, when I showed up the way that they wanted to, how long I showed up for. The expectations never stopped. And so as much as I was chasing validation, one thing that I found was that it was very difficult to love myself because everyone else had their judgments of me. Not because of my own personal judgments. Like I hardly ever looked in the mirror and asked myself, well, do you dislike these things about you? I just took in what everybody else was saying and actually became a worse version of myself because two things were happening. I'm fighting to be what everybody wants. And then there's like my higher self, right? That's just like, I hate this. I hate walking around this way. I hate being this kind of person. I don't want to show up the way that everybody wants me to show up. I don't want to do what everybody wants me to do, what society says you have to do. And so I walked around for a long time, kind of going in between, following the rules and fighting them, rebelling against them. And the problem is that even when I was rebelling against them and I was showing up what seemed like authentically, it was still out of rage for how I needed to show up. It was still out of fear for how, people wanted me to show up. Even doing this podcast right now, I see how the majority of people are doing podcasts. They have their nice mics. They have people coming onto their podcast. They have these cute setups. When I look at podcasts today, I'm like, yes, you're killing it. And I've wanted to do a podcast for maybe 5 years now. Maybe a little longer than that, actually. Maybe a little longer than that. I probably started watching, or not watching, but listening to podcasts in like 2017. And in my head, I was like, I want to do that. There's something like, I want to talk. Like I have a lot to say. I have a lot of wisdom to give. I want a show. I want a podcast. So I started saying that, in 2017. But the number one thing that held me back from doing it was the judgment of you, right? So you as my viewer that's watching me right now, what are you going to think of me? What are you going to think of what I have to say? Because what I have to say is not what everybody has to say, right? So that was first and foremost. I had this idea. I think it's great. I think, I want to jump in. I want to dive into it, but I'm afraid of how I'm going to be viewed and judged. So I held myself back from doing it. Then after I got over being, viewed and judged a certain way, I started getting like scared that no one was going to take me seriously because of my setup, right? I didn't have the best setup. So I stopped myself from ever doing a podcast because I was like, damn, I don't have a setup and I don't have the audio version yet. So I was like, oh, okay. So I still can't do it. Mind you, I had the plan. I knew exactly what I wanted to do. It was this like really cute idea. And yet I couldn't do it in my head because I don't have this setup. I don't have the tools. I don't have the mic. At the time, I didn't have the best phone, right? So I was kind of going through this idea that in order for me to do the thing that I want to do, that I authentically feel I'm being called to do, from the bottom of my soul, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to show up that way because I can't show up the way that everybody else is showing up that's doing it. Do you hear me right now? When I think back at little Brie, just like a few months ago, when I think back at little Brie, I'm just like, wow, that sucks. That sucks that you held yourself back for so long. You weren't confident in yourself. You allowed yourself to be inauthentic in your truth and how you wanted to do things and what you wanted to do just because everyone that you've seen in society is doing it a certain way. Like that sucks that you, as the different person that you are, as somebody who has accepted that everybody is different, still is afraid to show up authentically, still assumes that people are going to judge you negatively because you're you. And I think that's powerful in itself because people are going to judge you negatively because you're you. But we've already talked about this. Their judgments of you has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them. Their own perceptions, their own conditions, their own beliefs. Even if it can reflect something back to you because everyone's a mirror, their judgments of you is more about them than it will ever be about you. So when we walk around needing validation and hoping that people are going to be okay with who we are before we actually step into who we are, that's such a disservice. That's literally us living in a shell, in a box. We're constantly asking for permission to be ourselves. And because we're asking for permission, we're going to hear no. When you ask for something, it's not just an automatic yes. It's a yes or a no, which means it's a 50-50 chance. And as humans, we're wired to survive. We're wired to keep ourselves safe. So if it's a 50-50 chance, we're less likely to go after it. It's too high of a stake. We're not doing that. That's what it comes down to. This is too high of a risk. Society won't accept it. And most of the time you're wrong. Because especially if it's coming from this intuitive place, it's coming from your authentic voice. Usually you're wrong in the worst things that you're thinking, but that's what happens. Society won't accept me. I will get, trumped over. People will talk negatively, whatever the case may be, whatever those subconscious thoughts are. Even if you yourself are down and ready and you're like consciously in this place of feeling so confident, you feel like you got it. It's a wrap, like bow, bow, bang, bang. The truth is, subconsciously, if you are not showing up authentically yourself, there is something that's telling you can't. Something's telling you that you can't. And I think it's so incredibly important for us to not only connect back to ourselves, but do so confidently so that we're not only connecting with ourselves behind closed doors, so that we're not only connecting with people that are safe. Take that 50-50% chance because why not? Yes, it could be a no, but it could also be a yes. And if it's a no, you will survive that. And the one thing that I know is that when we are craving validation, that's literally an alert for insecurity. So for example, if you have a project, if you have something that you're going for, something that you're going towards, something that speaks to your soul that you truly want to do, truly want to be, truly want to show up as, but you're stopping yourself from doing so, or you're looking around, let's say you do it, you're looking around to see who's going to tell you that you look good, who's going to tell you that it works for you, who's going to tell you that you're doing a good job. That's an insecurity alert. that's actually a beautiful way for you to tap into, oh, there's an insecurity here. So for example, doing this podcast specifically, I'm not getting a lot of praise about it. There's not a lot of people that's telling me, oh my gosh, I'm watching your podcast. As far as I'm concerned, the views that I'm getting, I'm so incredibly grateful for, but I'm not necessarily receiving all the accolades, right? People in my tribe, my peoples, they're not necessarily watching all of my videos. They're not telling me what I'm doing for them. There is no real validation coming from this podcast. However, the reason why I can show up confidently and do it every single week and post every single week is because of me being authentic with myself. It actually doesn't matter who and what thinks it's amazing. What matters is this is my truth. This is what I truly feel in my soul that I want to do, that I need to do for myself. So regardless of how many comments I get, regardless of what other people think, regardless of how many people are watching, I need to do this for me. And I can do that confidently because no matter what, I understand that I'm showing up authentically. I'm not doing this because everybody else is doing it. I'm also not doing it because of what it could possibly generate. I'm doing it because it's true to my soul. And I'm going to keep doing it as long as it's true to my soul. And the goal is to evolve. It's to go in the direction that makes the most sense for me, not the direction that everyone tells me I must go in. That is when you're confident in your connection with yourself. And when you are confident in your connection with yourself, you start to call in more genuine connections. Because you being you is what your soul tribe is looking for. You being you is the perfect mirror for whoever needs to actually enter your life. They start to mirror you on an authentic energy. And it's a beautiful thing. But if you're continuing to hide yourself or stop yourself from showing up, you're continuing to look around for permission to be yourself. You really are going to just live society's rules without ever tapping into your highest and truest potential. We talk about tapping into our potential from a work status, a work-based situation. But tapping into your highest and truest potential is also in your connections. It's also in your day-to-day living. It can't be all about the money. It can't be all about the physical. Because that's what we do. That's why we are in this rat race of who can make the most money and how much you can make and survive and this, that, and a third. Because that is the way that we show, hey, I'm validated, right? Having all of the stuff shows I'm a hard worker. I do all the things. I'm putting in all the effort. We buy all the things to show, hey, look, validate me. It's validation. The stuff is validation. But something happened to me, what was it, 2 years ago, in the last 2 years, right? For some of you, y'all know that I was homeless for 2 years. And in that journey, I got out of it. And when I got out of it, I started making a nice amount of money, right? Stabilizing myself. And in the midst of stabilizing myself, I was making more money than I was before the homeless journey. And at that time, I was like shocked at who I became. Because I remember that before that journey, I had this idea of who I would be when I would make that much money. So for me, I had this goal. I'm going to reach this goal. And when I reach this goal, I had like a list of things that I would buy, invest in, do, right? I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to put this here and And, I was shocked that I was actually reaching that goal after such a tough time. But the one thing that I learned is that in that tough time, that was my time to become the most authentic version of myself. The realest, rawest version of myself, because everything that I ever had, all of the physical things were completely taken away. I didn't have them anymore. I couldn't hide behind anything, including my hair, my outfits. I couldn't show up as one thing while living a certain kind of life. I was used to kind of showing up as somebody who is strong, somebody who, just is kind of like the type to push through, very successful, all that stuff. And although that was true, I was also really struggling. I was going through it. I was hurting. I was going through a lot of trauma, right? So there's the version of me that I'm showing everybody. And then there's a version of me that is like dying inside. And the authentic version of me is just like, I just want to scream. I just want to tell my truth. I just want to express to people what it is that I've been going through in my home, what it is I've been going through in my life, right? But I stayed mute for a while. And what the homeless journey did to me is it broke me open, because it took away all of the things that I could hide behind, the things that I could kind of convince myself is self-love and is just my truth. I had to I got rid of it all. No family, no clothes. Like it was me and my sister. We had about 2 to 3 articles of clothing at max, with one bag, right? Hardly any clothes. My hair was actively breaking, right? And there was no products to put in it. So I had to just start wearing my hair naturally, which wasn't the worst thing in the world, because I would naturally wear my hair naturally. But beforehand, I was doing lots of wigs and braiding my hair a little bit, or whatever the case is. But I love natural hair, so I never really had a true issue with wearing my natural hair. So that was good. But it was still hard because I'm watching my hair break and I can't hide behind it, right? At least if I was wearing my natural hair, I could wear my afro out, but then still, brush it and do different stuff with it, put it up, do different stuff. That wasn't the case for me, right? I had to kind of show me, right? Makeup, no anything. So because of all the stuff that was taken away from me, I got to know myself. I got to see the horrible parts of myself, and I got to see the most amazing parts of myself. And through that journey, as I'm learning myself, the ups and downs, how I am, how I work, how I show up, I got to a place of understanding that I suck and I'm amazing. My fullest potential was in loving the parts of me that sucks, so that I could really shine and be amazing. And once I tapped into that, once I stopped hiding from my truth, how I think, stopped hiding from what I've done, stopped hiding from who I am, stopped hiding from my truth, the truth of how my whole life I've lived a very physical reality and a very spiritual reality that I never understood. And those two things would intertwine. And so there would be things that are happening in my life that looks like it's not true, but it's true to me because my reality is all messed up. And people will call it schizophrenic, but it's not. It's just literally it's spiritual realm and physical realm. And one day I'll talk about it. But it's one of those things where I was going through a crazy time because I was living in multiple realms at once, multiple dimensions at once. I was experiencing so many different things. I experienced my mother's death in the midst of her being alive and didn't know which one I was dealing with. I could see entities walking amongst us outside on a day-to-day basis. These are things that people look at you and think you are crazy. These are things that I've acted on and been labeled crazy, a liar, a problem, all of those things, but they're real. They're actually happening. And once I got to realize, wow, some of my worst moments, some of my hardest moments was just simply me at my lowest and me sucking. And just because I sucked doesn't mean I'm amazing. I'm not amazing. So now when I looked at my most amazing parts, I realized they intertwined. Because what makes me amazing, in my opinion, is my wisdom and my ability to nurture and love people, see people. That's what I think makes me amazing. And I realized that the only reason why I can do that, the only reason why I have such amazing wisdom, and the only reason why I can see people, relate to people, being compassionate with people, be a good coach for people, is because of the times that I sucked. I understand people because I've been through it all, right? When you don't understand something, you look at people like they're crazy. You judge them. But because I've been through it all, I've been the villain and I've been the hero, I understand people better. I see them better. And I have my horrible days to thank for that. Once I got to like really accept that all of this is who I am authentically, and I started to decide to not just heal in the way that would look good, but actually heal in the way that would feel good, that would be good for me, become who I actually want to be, not what everybody else wants me to be, I was free. And that's when I started generating more clients, generating more money, generating more opportunity. And in the midst of generating all of that, I realized that once I started hitting a certain peak or started hitting a certain amount of money, the things that I had on my list, I no longer wanted. It just wasn't my truth. I had those things on my list. I was manifesting those things because I was running away from my problems. I was manifesting those things out of trauma. And a lot of those things were being manifested out of lack. I wanted these things because of the things that I never had, the things that I didn't have at the time. A few years ago, before the journey, I needed all of this stuff, right? I needed to not only be rich, but show that I'm rich. Now, after the journey, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful. I can have a few articles of clothing and be okay. I don't have to show everything that I have. Not because I don't want to, but because authentically, that's just who I am. I never had to show it. But in the past, I felt like I had to prove that I was worthy of something. So I did have to show how much money I was making. I did have to show that I was doing well because I needed everybody to see me a certain way. Now I could care less how people see me. People could see me in the same outfit 2 days in a row, and I'd be like, cheers, right? Need that drink, need that sip, that worked. Right? But that's how I was. You could see me right now in this outfit, see me tomorrow in this outfit, and I'm like, but before I cared so much. I cared so much. So now, with all of the money that has been made, I'm actually putting it towards things that matter to me, towards things that authentically connect to who I am, not towards things that I think I should buy because it will look a certain way. Just my truth. Here is my truth. Connecting to yourself confidently is choosing to be authentic. And honestly, being authentic is scary because we're always looking for validation. But instead of looking for validation, instead of showing up as, hey, is it okay for me to be me? Start looking for people who relate or want to relate or are curious. Stop asking if it's okay to be you and instead say, hey, this is who I am. Here's my energy. Let's see who aligns. You run this. And you can't be confident if you're not authentic. Otherwise, you're just trying to fit a certain kind of mold. You got to be willing to be you. You got to be willing to show up. You got to be willing to mess up. You got to be willing to fail loudly. You also got to be willing to know that all of those failures, all of the worst parts of you also make up the best parts of you. They make up the greatest parts of you. And when you connect to that truth, you become more confident in who you are because you're authentic, because you're being truthful, because it actually doesn't matter what anyone else's opinion is, because you know your truth. You're not trying to fit a mold. You are the mold. So at that point, you could care less what people have to say, or you care in a curious way. You want to hear what they have to say to see, okay, what is that mirroring back to me? Is that a limiting belief that is being mirrored back to me that I need to get out? Was God simply sending that person to have that negative thought to see if I agree with it? Right? Are the judgments that I'm receiving right now a reflection of what I think of myself right now on a subconscious level? That's what it will start to do to you. It will start to make you have different conversations. Not the ones of, oh my goodness, I suck and I can't do it. And oh my God, people are going to this, that, and a third. But instead, the ones that keep you confident. And the more confident people in the world are open to learning. The most confident people in the world, truly confident, they're open to learning. They don't mind making a mistake. They don't mind talking about their mistakes. because they know who they are. And no matter what you label them as, no matter what you say about them, they still know who they are, which means they also know that they might feel something towards it. So they will confidently and authentically feel while also showing up themselves. Because the truth is, nobody can tell you who you are and nobody can tell you how to show up. Only you can do that. And since you're the only one that can do it, you have to be the leader of everything. You have to lead us. You have to show the world, this is who I truly am, regardless of what you think. As a leader, everyone's not going to agree with you, but who cares? You're the one that's leading. And if it's a democracy, you'll listen to everybody. You want to hear everybody out. But at the end of the day, it's your world and everyone else is living in it. And if you want to connect confidently, you want to know that people are coming into your life genuinely, you got to stop looking for validation. You got to stop getting so worked up over rejection. Because a lot of times when we get rejected, we are trying to prove to the ones that rejected us that we are not rejectable, right? Like, you shouldn't have rejected us, whether that's through revenge and anger, like, why did you reject me? Or that's just through, I want to make you proud. Either way, when people reject us, we should take that as inventory. We should tell ourselves, oh, word, okay, that's not in alignment. Awesome. Or, okay, why did you reject me? Just like if you got rejected from a job that you thought you were perfect for, yes, it's a sting, but you may reply back like, can you just let me know, why? So that you can be better. It's the same kind of inventory for yourself. Everyone's opinion is not going to be right, but some of it is going to be telling you something. It's going to be teaching you something and helping you through something. And if that's the case, take it in as just that. But a lot of times when we're getting so much negative opinions, it's what we think of ourselves. It's how we see ourselves. Or if you're getting kind of both, some people love it, some people don't love it, some people love you, some people don't love you. That's how you feel about you. It's your insecurities, your shadow side, and your higher self and your confidence kind of just going at it. It's being shown throughout everything. But when you just absolutely love what you're doing and you're authentic in it, even if negativity comes in for you, one thing that I've noticed is people will actually have your back before you have to have your own back. Because you're in that energy. People will fight for you, right? People will feel weird coming in and having to say anything to you because it's authentic. And we're energetic beings. We all know when something is real versus when it's not. So you're more likely to get a negative energy when something is not real, when you're operating in a not so real way and you're just kind of doing things to fit into society's norms versus when you're showing up authentically. People love real. Even if it doesn't seem like it, they do. Even the people they love to hate, they love real. As long as the person is real, they'll just be like, oh my goodness, this person is crazy. But people respect it. So the judgments of others don't actually matter. It's all about you, your energy, and how confident you are being authentic. And if you are confident being authentic with yourself and you have a beautiful, authentic relationship with yourself, you're showing up as you have no choice but to align with genuine connections. You have no choice but to weed out anybody that isn't truly for you and everybody that actually is. So, I'm going to leave the conversation right there because I really do think we hit that perfectly. Okay? And you know that I appreciate the fact that you are here watching this, being here with me. If you're subscribed, you have my heart. You know that. You have my heart. Thank you so much. But talk to me. Give me some feedback. Let me know what you're feeling about this. Is this something you're actively doing in your life? Is this difficult for you? These are things I need to know. You know what I mean? And if you're brand new, thank you so much for watching and showing up. Please feel free to enter the tribe, right? I don't want to tell you what to do, but subscribe, baby. See what happens, right? Test it out. It's a free trial. You know what I mean? Test it out, see what's up, and then later it continues to be free. So just stay. You get what I'm saying? But until next time, I'm sending you so much love. Bye.